Okay, so hopefully this video works, because the first one where I was streaming was basically just a still of me talking in station, which is, you know, not super interesting. It's less interesting than normal PI. So, alright. I'm first going to talk about skills. So, the skills that you're going to want for PI are all in planet management. Command Center upgrades to 5 takes a long time, but it's absolutely worth it. Interplanetary consolidation, also to 5, gives you 6 planets. Planetology is nice to have to like 4, you don't need it any more than that. Remote sensing lets you scan from further away. Advanced planetology, I don't bother training. One other skill, which I think is listed in the mail, but is not listed in planet management, because why would it be, is in the trade section. And that is, I don't have it on this character, but that is customs code expertise. So customs code expertise reduces the tax level by 10%. So if I show information on this POCO, you can see that the tax rate is 10%. Now, because we're in low sec, I think that that is just going to be 10%, and it only reduces the Empire tax rate. It does not reduce the tax rate for player corporations. It only reduces the Empire tax. So we have local up. You can see that there's one person in the local. We're currently cloaked in a safe spot. One thing that you're going to want to do is make yourself a safe spot in the low sec system, and that's relatively easy to do. You can do that in a frigate and then just come back with your hauler. For your ship, you're going to want to improve cloak and micro warp drive. So a Nereus or Pro Raider, Wreath, and what's the Caldari one? The Badger. Yeah, I think it's the Badger is the ones that you're going to want to use because they can fit a micro warp drive. The larger haulers can't. In your cargo hold, you're going to want to have the command centers for the planets you're going to want to set up. We're going to set up a barren world that's going to produce mechanical parts. So, what we're going to do is click on the current solar system, and then right-click on this barren world and view planetary interaction. Now, that comes up with this screen, and for pretty sure. I don't want to check because it might mess the video up, but I'm pretty sure that you need base metals and noble metals to produce that. So we're going to scan the planet for that, and we're looking for hotspots. So you can see that you have this slider which lets you scan to see where a hotspot is for this stuff. We're going to move it on noble metals because you can see here there are a lot less noble metals than there are base metals. And then we're going to slide this down until we find a good hotspot. So you can see this is just that sort of that very pale pink, and so is this. You know, if I move this just a little more, those will go white. So white is what you want on the heat map. We're then going to look at the base metals compared to the noble metals, and you can see that there's a big portion of base metals either side. Minimize this actually. A big portion of base metals either side of this section of noble metals here. So this is where we're going to build. So zooming in a little bit, you can see that that's there, and this is either side. So if we put our command center somewhere in the middle here, that'll be perfect. So we'll put our command center down, click on it, and then you're going to upgrade it. Now, upgrading it to the maximum level is great because that lets you run a lot more stuff. If you can only upgrade it to level 5, then that's fine. If you can upgrade it to 6, that's better. So we're going to upgrade it to 6. That's going to cost us about 6 mil. So you'll see that drop out of the wallet. There you go, 6.3 mil. So that's not a huge amount of ISK, and we're fine. Next thing we're going to do is build 2 extractor control units. So we know that the metals, the base metals, and we can go to scan at any time. We know that the base metals are on this side. So we'll put a bar extractor down here, and you can see if I zoom out, that's going to cover a large portion of that white heat area. And then what we're going to do is go to the noble metals and then place another one on this side of our command unit. Now that's going to cover a large area. You can see there, that's going to cover all of that hotspot. Next is the basic industry facilities. Now, a good setup that I use is I use 3 basic factories per extractor. And you can see that I just put them in a little triangular formation there below my extractor. Doesn't really matter where you put this stuff. You can have it set up in whatever formation you want. Next, I'm going to build a storage facility between those two groups. That is going to be the sort of the central point. I'm not going to link this command center at all. We're then going to use two advanced, not high-tech, two advanced industry factories below the storage unit, and then finally we're going to build a launch pad below the advanced. So we can talk about this in groups. So this is one group, this is another group, and then this is the central point, and then this is the third and final group. So we're going to extract noble metals out of this one. I'm going to set this for 2 days. I go for 2 days just because it's a reasonable amount of time, and it is not too much to manage. We're going to use 5 extractors with planet management, with control upgrades 5, and then we will move our extractors around onto the hot part of this heat map. Now what you're looking for is to get an average per hour of over 9,000. Over 9,000 means that, you know, every hour you're going to be pulling enough on average to fuel all 3 of these, which is ideal. That's what you want. And then we're going to hit start extraction. On this side, we're going to do the same thing. Set it for 2 days. Nearly got it. Set it for 2 days on base metals with 5 extractors. You can see I've got a little bit of grid left just because everything's close and I haven't put any links in yet. So one thing we are going to do is go back to the heat map and then just reduce that a little, because that tells us where the best section to pull these from is going to be. So we'll move these into position around this part of the heat map. You can see there that we're going to be pulling in slightly more. We're going to be pulling in about 15,000. In fact, on cycle 6, we're going to be pulling in almost 18,000 units. Obviously, at this end, we're only going to be pulling in just over 4,000 units, or well, sorry, just shy of 4,000 units. That's okay. The hope is that you've pulled enough here and have enough stored in the storage facility that you can keep the factories running even when you're only pulling in 3,000. Again, we're going to hit start extraction, and then we're going to hit submit, because that will start these 2 running. Now you can see that they have the red ring around them. Now that means that it is not routed correctly. It's extracted, because you can see the white bar just start to fill up there, but it's not routed. So we're going to set up links next. To do that, you're going to just right click on one of the factories, hit create link, and then you don't need to keep hitting create link. You can just stay in link mode, link the 3 factories together, and send them to the storage facility, send these directly to the storage facility, link these 2 together with one link that links to the storage facility, and then link the 3rd down to this launch pad, and then hit submit. Now, it's still not routed because we have to manually set up the route. So click on your extractors and go to products. You can see here it says not routed, and this is going to pull 22,500 units. Click on the material, create route, click the facility, which is in this case the storage unit, and hit create route. You can directly route this stuff to the factories. However, it would only take 9,000 units and the rest would just be lost. So that's why we route directly to the storage facility first. On this side, we're going to route the 15,000 noble metals. And again, we're going to be left with, you know, a sort of a mismatch of quantities. That's fine. You may just end up having to, you know, run 6 extractors on one, 4 on the other, or, you know, 3 and 5, or whatever it is that you have the skills to do. Then you can hit submit. Now you can see once we hit submit, now that the links have been created, we have a lot less CPU, power grid rather, available to us. So we don't actually have enough to do any other modules. But it's also relatively close with this setup. You can see that I don't have very much power grid left. So this is a very tight fit, but it's also very efficient. Oh, well, not very efficient. It's very good for setting up P2. Now, final thing we're going to do is we're going to set up, sorry, not the final thing, the next thing we're going to do is set up our, from the incoming supply, we have these base metals and these noble metals. So, we're going to go to schematics, and we're going to put in reactive metals, and you can see that that needs 3,000 base metals, and it's going to produce 20 reactive. So we're going to install that 3 times in this side of the facilities, routing all of them back to the central point. And then on this side, we're going to go to precious metals, which needs 3,000 noble metals and produces 20 precious metals. Same deal, all 3 of these, do the same thing, send that to the storage facility. So now what we have is this side of everything set up, but there's no input. Open up the routes, and you can see we've got base metals here. We're going to hit create route on the larger number. That's going to send 3,000 units every time it asks for them to that facility. I'm going to do that all 3 facilities. And you can see that they've now gone to this yellow color. We're then going to route the noble metals, same deal. All 3 going from the incoming supply, which is the larger number, to the 3 facilities on that side. Now you could leave it there and you could just produce noble metals, precious metals and your reactive metals. We're going to obviously go a step further and we're going to produce mechanical parts. And you can see that that needs 40 reactive and 40 precious metals, and that will produce 5 mechanical parts. So we're going to install that twice, and we're going to route that directly to our launch pad. The reason we route it to the launch pad is because it saves a step later on. Once we've done that, we can hit submit, and you can see that they still have this red ring because there's no incoming supply. We'll then go down, route precious metals, both facilities. Just make sure that you're routing from the incoming supply. Create route. You can see we still have this red ring. Once we've got the precious metals, we're then going to put the reactive metals in. So hit create route. And you can see that that first one now has gone to a yellow ring because it's working correctly. And then the second set of reactive metals, hit create route. And there we go. Now, don't forget to hit submit. Hit submit more often than you think you need to, because it's a pain in the ass if you forget to do something or do something wrong, and then hit submit or whatever. It's worth submitting it once you've done a block. Now this planet is now set up. In 30 minutes, this will produce, I think it's like 22,000, I think I said, units, which will get shipped to this facility. This will produce whatever it's going to produce and ship it to this facility. The material will then be shipped to either side of our factory complex, which will then take, I think it's another 30 minutes to produce 20 units of this. Now obviously that's 60 units are going to come here, and then this will fill up, this will half fill up, because we're producing 60, it needs 80. This takes an hour to fill, so you're going to fill the factories up in alternating fashion, and you will end up with an overage of material in the storage facility. But again, that's useful because if you leave it for the full 2 days, the hope is that the stuff that you mined at the start carries you through to the end of the cycle. So we don't need to do anything to this planet now for about a day. In the video that didn't stick, I also showed this planet here. It has produced 5 construction parts since I pulled the stuff from it. So we're going to view this in planetary production. And you can see here in the storage that this has the base and heavy metals. It also has reactive and toxic metals, which are obviously going to be getting shipped to this side. This is about to produce another 5 blocks, and you can see that this one's about halfway through. and then that will just ship directly to the... How long does that have to go? A couple of minutes, that's fine. So this is set up very similarly, where you have the 3 factories feeding into, or being fed from this storage on both sides, being fed by the extractor. When we are ready to, what we'll do is we'll launch this into space. I'm not sure if I can launch this because I've recently launched it. Have a look. When it's time to launch your stuff into space, you're going to drag and drop from this window to this window, and then hit the transfer button. Oh, there you go. It did work. You'll pay tax, which again you can reduce with that customs code expertise. And then that 5 material is now at the customs office for Planet 1. So when it's time to pick that up, what we're going to do is open up the local chat just to make sure I'm alone. There's one person here, so we're going to just do a quick D-scan. And I don't have anything on scan, so that's fine. The system's relatively small, so they could be docked or they could be cloaked or anything like that. So we're going to go to Planet 1, customs office. I'm still playing to Planet 1. I'm going to drop cloak, Planets 1, customs office, warp to within 0. You can warp to within 10 and then recloak, or you can warp to within 0 and then do a quick turnaround. So whilst I'm in warp, I'm going to do another D-scan. Still nothing on scan, so that's fine. Well, actually, it's on the wrong view, so let's do scan again. Still nothing on scan, so that's fine. Now, all you need to do is drag and drop that over your cargo icon. That's it picked up. We're now going to warp straight to the IMIA gate.
Warp drive active.
We've picked up that 5. You can see I picked up 200 previously. That 5 units of blocks. You can obviously warp to a safe spot. You're going to want to make yourself a safe spot somewhere in system, or you can warp to a celestial station, anything like that. So we've now been able to successfully pick up our material because we were able to come in, cloak, and leave. You can be cloaked while you're setting up your PI. You don't need to be on a station. You don't need to be anywhere else. You can be cloaked up in the safe spot. We've now made it back to IMIA, and you can see that we've got just shy of 2 million ISK of construction blocks. So that's how we're going to set that up, and that's how we're also going to retrieve the stuff that we're pulling out. It's worth diversifying your materials. So the construction blocks are always handy if you're going to be building T2. They also sell relatively well. Consumer electronics is also another good one. So you can see that consumer electronics are required for robotics, and so too are mechanical parts. I'll probably do another video here in a little while that details, once I have some of these, the details setting up a planet to do robotics construction. But that's how you set up P2s. Now you can set that up on 6 planets, or 4, 5, whatever planets you have, and make about 2 million ISK a day per planet. So making between 10 and 12 million ISK per day per character with decent skills is not too shabby. And if you have alts, or if you have other accounts, then you can quite easily make a reasonable amount of ISK per month. Hopefully this video stuck, and hopefully it was informative. And yeah, thanks for watching. If there's any questions, give me a shout.